Mismol David, Adonai roi lo echsar. Binot asher yarbitzeni amem menuchot yanachaleni. Nafshi shovev. Yanacheni v'magle tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki helech begitz al mavet. Lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha mishantecha hema yenachamoni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged surirai. Dishanta vashemen roshi kosiri vaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdifuni kol yamei chayai v'shaviti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. Through the tears, through the memories, in seeking comfort and strength, we often turn to the psalmist. And so I ask you now to recite these words with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. And when we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember Claire Weiss. To her children, to Barbara and Mark, and also to Len and Carol, to her grandchildren, Hallie, Jamie, Adam and Jeremy, and also to Jason, Michael, Aaron, and Emily. To her great-grandchildren, Sophie, Amelia, Jacob, Henry, Loretta, and Penner. To all the members of the family and to so many dear friends we've come together today to remember, but also to celebrate the beautiful life of your beloved Claire. We are taught by our sages that birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity and from youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Claire's beautiful journey of more than 93 years began here in Cleveland. She was born in 1926 to her Lithuanian immigrant parents, Hannah and Max Winnick. Claire was the youngest of the 4 Winnick children. She and her brothers, Herman, Morris, and Julius, all of blessed memory, grew up on Eddy Road in Cleveland's famed Glenville neighborhood. Now, while Claire did not discuss it much in her adult years, we know that the family back in those days faced many challenges during some of those most challenging and difficult years in our nation's history. When Claire was only 4 years old, her father, Max, died, leaving her mother, Hannah, to raise her 4 children alone. Claire's brothers were in their teens at the time. Hannah did her best working as the landlord of a 3-family house where she and her children lived. From a very young age, Claire would accompany her mother to the bank to act as her mom's translator. Can you imagine a young girl still in her single digits going to the bank with her mother, translating Yiddish to English so that the bank teller would know what was going on? And this regular act between Claire and her mother and the bank teller enabled the family to keep their home. In her teen years, Claire was quite social, and she had lots of great friends. She was involved with her high school sorority as she attended John Hay High School. When Claire Winnick was only 16 years old, she was spotted from afar by another teen who was 16, perhaps 17 years old. And this, of course, was Bob Weiss. The story that Claire recently reshared with her grandchildren was that Bob had seen Claire from a distance, and he asked about her. One of his buddies knew Claire, and so Bob's friend helped to arrange for a double date. And of course, for Claire at least, this was a blind date. Bob was immediately smitten. And if you were to ask Claire to tell the story of their first date, she would say, in her own special way, he was okay. As their courtship progressed, Bob worked diligently so he could afford a very nice box of chocolate for Claire. They were still in their teens. And this was perhaps for Valentine's Day. Upon presenting the beautiful box of sweets to Claire, she very sweetly informed Bob that she didn't like chocolate. Even so, love began to blossom for this very special couple. Bob went off to serve our country, and while he was still stateside, he was injured. As he recovered, he still found a way to send love letters to his sweetheart, and Claire, at just 17 years old now, she decided to board a train all by herself. She took this train to the East Coast where Bob was stationed, and she did not tell her mother she was doing this. That is the definition of chutzpah. Bob returned home, and they were married on June 10th, 1945. In their years together, Claire and Bob enjoyed a beautiful life, a life filled with so many wonderful friends and loving family. When Barbara and then Mark entered into Claire and Bob's world, the Weiss family portrait became so much more complete. Mark and Barbara, with your dad's passing in May of 1995, your parents were only 3 weeks shy of celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. As they journeyed through life together, it was also true that they journeyed the world together. They visited Italy and Israel, England. They journeyed to Hawaii and so many more places. And their friends were like family, and their family was among their closest friends. And this is so true when it came to your dad's brother and sister-in-law, Stan and Eleanor. After Eleanor's passing, Stan remarried Evelyn, and the friendship and the warm times continued as they lived across the street from each other in Florida. These moments for the four of them were so very special and precious. At Congregation Bethanu, your parents were quite the team. They helped to grow that congregation, and they both poured their hearts into it, working side by side with Rabbi Milton Rube. Your mom was involved in Bethanu's sisterhood, as your father led our congregation for so many years. Your mom helped wherever it was needed, from setting up a Shabbat Kiddush or Oneg to fundraising through the annual reverse raffles and other fun events. Barbara and Mark, in the Jewish wedding ceremony, when the couple is just about to share the second cup of wine, we listen to the words of the Sheva Brachot, the 7 wedding blessings. Within these blessings, the bride and groom are described by the Hebrew phrase, Re'im Ahuvim, literally translated meaning loving partners. What better way to describe your mother and father? Re'im Ahuvim, certainly loving partners. They were loving partners in business, working side by side in their stores, Charles Casuals, Miscellaneous, and Robert's Fashion, the store in Solon that your mom ran so well. They were loving partners in good and healthy times, and they were the most loving partners in challenging times. I think all of us remember how devoted your mom was to your father in times of health, but especially in times when there was an illness. They were loving partners in the way they raised the two of you and in the way they welcomed their 2 other children, Len and Carol. They were loving partners as they kvelled together in welcoming grandchildren, Lador Vador, from generation to generation. These words rang true and had such a special place in their hearts. After Bob's passing, Claire moved permanently to Florida. She enjoyed her lovely apartment in Highland Beach. She spent time with good friends, and she dedicated herself to giving her time and energy to help those in need by volunteering for the American Cancer Society. Hands-on work, driving patients to and from their treatments and doctor's appointments. And she also volunteered for Meals on Wheels. While in Florida, Claire cultivated a beautiful friendship with Tony Krem. He was a special man, and they were very special companions for one another. They were together 7 years until the time of his passing. Tony was described to me as a sweet and kind man who cared deeply for Claire. The 2 of them were happy together, whether it was traveling to Italy or just playing hundreds of games of gin rummy. And then there was Claire's move to Tucson. And this move was a meaningful one, as it enabled her to live closer to you, Mark and Carol. She built a home in the active adult community where she lived independently just until 2 weeks ago. Active. That might be her middle name. Claire stayed active. 4 to 5 times a week she played Maj. She played canasta. She had a social schedule that maybe was fuller than the 4 of your schedules. And her schedule included spending Sundays with you, Mark and Carol. She even went traveling with you. You told me about this great road trip she took, a fantastic trip driving up to Portland, Oregon to visit Jamie and Mike. She loved the stops along the way in Los Angeles and Big Sur, and her delight upon arriving in Oregon when she declared, "I have never seen trees so big." She took it all in and she loved it. Claire's life in Tucson included making more new and marvelous friends. And these friends, we know, are grieving today, and they're missing your mom so deeply. You shared comments with me from these friends that you had received, emails and text messages. This won't come as a surprise to you, but here's how her friends in Arizona described Claire. She was a classy lady, an inspiration. One wrote, "She was special, like a mother to me." Another shared she loved her ice cream, and we would giggle when we ate our ice cream following a dinner that included burgers. We giggled because we knew we shouldn't be eating that, but we did. Another one went on to say she was spunky, one who embraced life. And she never had an unkind word to say about anyone. Your mom, your grandmother, and your great-grandmother, in my eyes, she was the classiest lady, like a queen. If she were to wear a crown, I imagine the most precious jewels in that crown were, in fact, her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Whether you called her by the name of Grandma or Nanny, the name she picked out for herself, or perhaps Grandmama, no matter what name you called her, you all shared a very strong bond. And you knew that she had a love for you that was without measure. Sophie and Amelia, two of Claire's great-granddaughters, will forever recall visits to Arizona where Nanny would take you on shopping sprees. She'd take you out for ice cream. She'd take you to dinner at Firebirds. And, of course, your Nanny's absolute favorite, Frost Gelato. Claire was so much to so many. And here we are today with sad but very, very grateful hearts. We find the strength through the tears to join with the sages of our people as we declare the following. Zichrona livracha. We pray that the memory of Claire Weiss will always be our blessing. Amen. We're taught that words which come from the heart enter directly to the heart. There are some members of the family today who have words in their hearts they want to share with all of us. I want to first call on her daughter, Barbara. And, of course, her son-in-law, Len.
My mom was way ahead of her time. She worked alongside my dad for almost 30 years, when women didn't usually go to work. But she always managed to be a wonderful mom to me and my brother Mark. If we didn't call her when we got home, we always knew the phone would be ringing in 10 minutes with asking, "Did you get home okay? And do you have a lot of homework?" Then she would tell us to warm up the dinner, and they would be home soon. Usually one or both of them would have to go back for another couple hours, but they always tried to have dinner with us. She was always fully invested in everything we did. We also did so many fun things together when I was younger. I loved our trip to the Nevele and the Catskills. We took when I was a teenager, and our trips to Pennsylvania where we swam, biked, and sat in rocking chairs on the porch. My mom was always strong and very independent, especially after my father died. She lived on her own terms and decided to stay permanently in Florida until I insisted she either move to Tucson, where my brother resided, or in Cleveland. Soon after, she called me to say that she found the perfect place in Tucson and was going to build a house. At 80 years old, she packed up and moved to Saddlebrook, where she made new friends and played Maj and canasta 4 or 5 times a week. Mom loved Tucson very much, but was very disappointed with the lack of delis. Just recently, we asked Mom if she wanted to move into an assisted living home. We received a very emphatic no. She told me she would be lost there with no friends and no Maj, and she said she wouldn't like the food. Mom also didn't want anyone coming into assist her because she didn't want anyone to disrupt her routine. She was going to live on her own terms, and she did until the end. Mom's strength and love for her family and many friends was always unconditional. She was loved by so many people in return. Mom told me that she loved me to the moon and back, and I always said that I loved her even more. We will always remember her independence, courage, and loving way she had with us and her wonderful friends. Everyone should be as fortunate to have such an amazing mother who is just as beautiful on the inside as she was on the out. We will miss you, and you will always be in my heart. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to call on 3 of her grandchildren to come up at this time. Jamie, Jeremy, and Emily, if you join me. And they will be assisted by Loretta.
As painful as it is to say goodbye to Grandma, I'm also filled with love and gratitude to have had such a wonderful grandma to call my own. Grandma always made me feel so connected to this family, calling me her granddaughter and even bragging to her friends about little things like the pies I made for Thanksgiving, treating me as if she had always been my grandma. Jeremy and I are so lucky to have had the last 10 years living in Tucson with her, building memories and watching how much she loves spending time with great-grandchildren. Mom, Dad, Grandma, Jeremy, Henry, Loretta, and I have been a little unit together in the desert, and we are so sad to have lost such an important part of that group. It truly feels like a piece is missing. Our children may be young, but they will never forget their grandmama. We will honor her, and she'll always be with us through sharing memories and stories. We've all been deeply impacted through the immense love, kindness, and generosity she has always shown us, as well as her ability to be an amazing listener when you had a lot on your mind. We will feel her strength forever. We love you, Grandma.
About those Thanksgiving, she always said the best things about the turkeys that I made, and I'm gonna miss that.
Grandma set the example for all of us by how she lived. When we were little, or when I was little, I had a child's perspective on her. She was the acknowledged best cook in our family, talent passed down to Hallie and to Jeremy. And I still remember recently her and Jeremy talking about something that had to do with meat that I couldn't even understand what they were talking about. Her apartment was where our large extended family gathered for holiday meals, and she and Poppy were our frequent babysitters, soft on request for ice cream and firm on bedtimes. When I got older, I appreciated how much Grandma set the example for others. Grandma was calm and loving, thoughtful to herself and others, and a woman who's not afraid to share her opinions. And this was before Lean In, and my guess is before the feminine mystique and now. She easily made and kept friends throughout her life because of these qualities. A personal story of how Grandma set the example for me was when I was visiting Tucson, and I sought advice from my family about struggling with work, childcare, and housework, and felt guilty about not doing any of them well. Lots of advice followed, and then Grandma simply told me how she had full-time help when she and Poppy were working hard in the stores and Aunt Barbara and Dad were little. and suddenly it felt okay to look for help simply because Grandma had done so. Because she had amazing relationships with her children that I can only hope to have with my own children. Her children who would literally go to the ends of the earth for her, and because she was just Grandma. Grandma always set the example for me by her remembered actions and advice and love, and we'll miss you so much, Grandma.
I want to invite the eldest of Claire and Bob's great-grandchildren to come forward. Sophie has written a special poem for this moment.
Hi, I'm Sophie Bravo. I'm Claire's great-granddaughter. I want to share a poem I wrote for her. Dear Nanny, I love you so much, I don't know where to start, but I'll do my best to explain the impact you've had on my heart. I love your house in Tucson with the mountains so big and bright. I love the stars you can see so vividly that light up the night. I love my private room that I had in your house. It was only mine because I was the only one who would sleep on the bed that was really just a converted couch. I love your beautiful teapot collection and your Tucson-esque home, the hummingbirds that danced outside your window, and the constantly ringing phone. Your love of Maj, the best player anyone has ever seen. Some call you champion, I call you Tucson's Maj queen. Some people might not know you're great at iPad games too, like Wizard of Oz Slots, Toy Blast, and Candy Crush too. I got Facebook notifications daily from you asking me to come play. You did not know why I was getting these, or that you had a Facebook account anyway. You use technology more than anyone else your age. You sent me emails with 1,000,000 spaces after every word in an effort to center the page. You could never remember all your passwords, so I kept them all for you. Now here are even more reasons of why I adore you. Our trips around Tucson always brought me delight, getting gelato from Frost because it was 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I love how funny you were, whether you tried to be or not. You made people laugh, and I love this a lot. One time we went to a restaurant where you ordered fish. The waitress was so excited because there was something special about this dish. She told you the fish was wild and caught fresh every day, but when you tried it, you said tuna tasted better from a can and promptly asked her to take it away. When you came to visit us in Cleveland last August, you told us in a very unconventional way you were arriving on a Friday, and that meant you were missing beauty shop day. You called my mom and asked her to schedule a hair appointment at once. My mom then asked, "This is how you're announcing your visit to us?" I love how when I was in Tucson, you always wanted to help. You would offer to get me things, but it was far off on a shelf. You would then promptly sit down and tell me it would just be easier if I got it myself. Then you would look at me and smile and laugh at yourself. I love the puzzles we did together, 1,000 pieces or more, and how the following day we would go back to the store. We'd buy another puzzle and finish it really fast. When we did them together, we always had a blast. I love that literally the only thing within a 20-minute radius of your house was Bash's, a grocery store. We would go there to buy Nestle water, not Nestle, and goodies galore. We would stock up your pantry and fridge for you. Then you would sit back and smile and say how happy you were because when we were in town, everything got done for you. Nanny, you made me smile each and every day. You are so smart, beautiful, clever, and kind. You will always be in my heart and forever in my mind. Thank you for being the best great-grandma the world has seen yet. I love you, a bushel and a peck and a hug around the neck. Love, Sophie.
Last, I'd like to call on her son, Mark.
Tough act to follow. That was beautiful, Sophie. Thank you for your beautiful eulogy. Thank you all. Mom, You cannot love many flowers, you can only love one. I never really understood the meaning of loving only one flower instead of a whole bouquet, but that was the lesson of the fox when he spoke to the little prince, a book I recently bought to read to Henry and Jacob. But I never really understood it fully until this past week. As I sat for many hours in the hospital waiting and hoping for a rally, repeatedly in my mind I said, you cannot love many flowers, you can only love one. I began to realize that Mom was that unique flower to me and everyone she touched. Here's why. Well, I think they explained it better than I will. Mom lived a life of many years. In those years, she invested the time to be approachable and be approached. When we were young, we want to be loved and nurtured. As we grow into young adults, we want our freedom. As we become parents, we want to be loved and accepted as we were when we were children. For each stage, Mom was there to love us, nurture us, give us independence when we needed it. Mom did this by accepting who we are and what we had become. Mom allowed us to get close, and that is why the loss and the sorrow is so great. And then there was her wisdom. Always just a few words that were both direct and thoughtful. Never arrows, always honest, sincere, respectful of our feelings and our egos. Matter of fact, I can only remember 2 times in my life where she gave unsolicited advice. And when it was not accepted, of course, it did not matter. There was never a guilt trip. When I was stuck and undecisive, calmly she would say, Mark, make a decision, act on it, and you'll figure it out. And as my own life has unfolded, it is that advice that has both guided and motivated me. The source of my confidence today is a result of her confidence in me. As a child, I think I resented her working. She was never the den mother I ached for like my friends' moms, or was not there to be with me after school. Barbara, many times was my surrogate mom, looking over me and protecting me. And of course, as a younger brother, me never appreciating her, so thank you, Barbara. I hope it's not too late. But Mom and I did talk about it, and she knows how much I appreciated it. As an adult, Mom taught me as being a role model to accept and respect women in the business world. When I first went to New York City, it was Mom, not my dad, who showed me the ropes of buying and introduced me to the market. My resentment that I had as a child grew into an appreciation of egalitarianism in the workplace and in life. It never occurred to me that women were any less than men. That is because of Mom. The book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, could have been her autobiography. Her gift was making everyone near her feel comfortable and safe, special, and loved. She was that one special flower. Only one flower can be unique, which is why you can only love one flower, not many. Mom was the one flower that we invested the time in, and she invested in us. Mom was consistent in her approach to life and how she lived it. She kept life simple and believed in a few basic principles. Never be a burden to your family, be generous, and have a very deep sense of faith. It is called beshert, or what is meant to be. And Mom was a true believer in fate, and I think that's what helped guide her through her life. Unconditional love, as Barbara said, unconditional friendship, no strings, and an acceptance for who you are and not what she wanted you to be or wanted you to become. She let us be ourselves, and whatever that was, she accepted and loved us. She was resilient. No one I know better accepted and worked through the hand she was dealt better than Mom, both good and bad. I cannot think of a time in the 66 years of being her son that she was ever negative. There was not a time in 66 years that she acted needy or placed herself above anyone else. There was never a time in 66 years that she cast attention on herself or took a discussion and turned it into something about her. Never did this happen. So strong was her sense of self-worth that she never needed to usurp anyone else's space, nor would it ever occur to her to do so. That was her uniqueness and why she was that one special flower. You cannot love many flowers. You can only love one. For Bob, she was a rock and a source of strength and a partner that gave him the confidence to achieve all that he did. She supported him in everything he wanted to do. When he was sick and dying, she was his nurse, partner, and cheerleader, never giving up hope. After he passed, she never wanted to be a burden to her kids, and we would have gladly accepted that burden. She remained fiercely independent and lived her life on her terms, true to herself and true to her own spirit. As Kathy mentioned, she and my dad had a special relationship with my uncle and his wife, Eleanor, and when she passed, and my uncle remarried with Evelyn, they were all the best of friends, and as Kathy mentioned, traveled together, and eventually lived across the street from each other. When Stan bought an apartment in Highland Beach, he called my dad and said, "I found an apartment for you right across the street. Why don't you come down and take a look at it?" They set an example for us of what a family really means. For her family, she was steady, consistent, loving, and there when you needed her. For my wife, Carol, Mom was her confidant, and Carol found that relationship she had always been seeking. For her friends, Kathy expressed it well. For me, the best way I can remember my mom is to be more like her and touch others the way she touched us all. Maya Angelou wrote, "People will forget what you have done for them. They will never forget how you made them feel." It was as if she knew our mom when she wrote that beautiful poem. Maya Angelou understood that you do not love many flowers, you can only love one.
As you are able, I invite you to rise now for the El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer, as we ask God to accept Claire's soul. El Malei Rachamim, shochen bamromim, המסה מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במלאות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע המזהירים, את נשמת חווה בת חנה ומרדכי, שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. אנא ברחמים אסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותצרור בצרורך ימת נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר Amen. O merciful God who dwells on high, who is full of compassion, grant perfect rest beneath the shelter of your divine presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament. To our dear departed Claire Weiss, who will be remembered in the household of Israel by the Hebrew name Chava bat Chana v'Mordechai. To Claire, who is gone now to her eternal home, may her soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, and grant that her memory inspire all of us to noble and consecrated living. And to this we can answer, Amen. Friends, just a couple brief announcements. We will be driving in procession to the Mount Olive Cemetery. Following the interment, the family will receive visitors at Hallie and Jason Bravo's residence. Their address is 6332 Woodhawk. Again, that's 6332 Woodhawk. Visitation will be today until 5 p.m., also tomorrow evening from 6 until 9, and on Sunday from 11 until 4. Claire's name will be read beginning tonight for 4 consecutive Fridays in the Shabbat service at the Temple Tifereth Israel, and everyone is invited. Lastly, anyone wishing to make a contribution in memory of Claire, the family has asked that you might consider the University of Arizona Foundation in memory of Mrs. Claire Weiss, and if you need more information on that, it can be found on the Berkowitz-Kumin-Bookatz website. On behalf of their entire family, we thank you for your love and support on this sad but very important day.